All right, today we're going to share about Dana's recent trip to Cabos San Lucas and how she prepared for this trip and tell us about how she dealt with allergies. Hi, my name is Deborah Becknell and I'm the co-owner of Allergy Navigator and the creator and content producer, as well as fellow allergy sufferer.
Hi, I'm Dana Mohan. I am a fellow allergy sufferer as well, and I'm the co-owner, educator, and certified life and health coach for Allergy Navigator. Welcome.
Yeah, today I was going to ask Dana for our first question to share with us about her food allergies and just tell us a little bit about what kind of allergies you struggle with.
So on a daily basis, I have to pay attention to what's happening outside. So right now it is spring in Kentucky and I literally check the pollen levels every day. And right now the pollen levels are high and the grass levels are low. That means histamine is really high in my body. So like today would not be a day that I eat strawberries because of the histamine levels that are in strawberries. So I have to be very careful with my histamine levels. On top of that, I have to pay attention to all grains. So grains would be gluten, which is wheat, and rice, oats, and corn. I can't have those every single day. I have been healing my gut for a long period of time, so I'm starting to be able to get these things back now, but I have to have those on a rotating basis. And same thing with dairy. I can have a little bit of dairy, but I can't have it every day, many times a day. I can rotate it. Unless sometimes I will, a birthday or an outing, and I know I'm gonna have a reaction, I kind of just do it.
Do it to yourself anyway.
I do it to myself anyway. I know I'm gonna have a reaction later, which is not something I would definitely recommend. But here's the thing, I've got to live a little bit, if I'm gonna be out and everyone else is having something, I want to try and have something too. Yeah.
Okay, so given that, what did you do? What kind of research did you do to choose this destination?
Okay, so we went to Cabos San Lucas, which is just south of California. Before we started out, we did all sorts of research, which is what we have to do every time we go someplace. So we can't just pick a resort based on reviews on the enjoyment that people had. We have to pick a resort based on reviews of cleanliness. I pay big attention to the way that they provide food, whether it's going to be buffet style or is it going to be restaurants in the resort that you can go to and order straight from the chef, which is what I have to do. I have to order straight from the chef. So we actually initially decided we were going to go to Turks and Caicos, but the flight to get there was more than a week spent. So we're like, no, we're not going to do that. So then we decided, let's look at flights first and see where we can get a flight that's going to lead to a beach, because we know we wanted to go to a beach. And here we found this flight to Cabos San Lucas. Neither one of us had been there, my husband and I. And we found this wonderful resort, talked to them extensively about my allergies and my needs, not just for food, but for the room, cleaning products.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I do now, I'm going to start doing more often, is I'm going to make them change the filters in the room before I get there. And one little tip I would say to you is make sure that you ask them to leave the old filter in the room so that you can see that it was changed.
Yeah.
And it just makes the biggest difference, especially going around the beach area because there's so much mold.
Yes,
from the constant air being wet, moist.
So when you arrived to the destination, did you feel like that they lived up to your expectations and what you all had planned before you went?
So the resort we stayed in was called Garza Blanca, and it was actually only a year old, so there was really not a lot of time for it to go downhill. But wow. Wow. This place was amazing. And not just the way it looked, because it was stunningly beautiful, but the people and the way they took care of me, they stepped right up from the very beginning. Right on the time we were checking in, they went over my needs and my allergies with the person at the front desk. And then, not only that, but I had called the week before, which is what I always do. I always call the week before and I talk to them about my allergies again, and I try and talk to the manager, not just the person at the front desk. I learned.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah. So you have to know who to talk to. So I talked to the manager and I talked to the food service manager. So those are two different people. You have a manager of the resort and then you have a manager of the food service. And the food service manager is the person who's going to really be on top of it for you. And I also set up snacks in the room because the resort that we stayed in, the room that we had, they provided snacks for you in the room and stuff, so that was really nice. So since I called ahead, I got a lot of gluten-free snacks, no grains. I can't believe what they found for me.
That's amazing. I mean, that's going above and beyond. You know, like when you want a trip and you're hungry the whole time, but then you have a trip like this that was truly successful just because they went the extra mile.
Right. So got in the room, all these snacks. On top of that, I told them that I drink a ton of water every day. So bringing the 2 large bottles and putting them in the room each day, that's not even enough. So they didn't bring 2 bottles. They brought 2 cases of water.
That's awesome.
And then throughout the week, I did have to get one more case because we drink a lot of water. But again, they were phenomenal in the way that they approached me.
Yeah, that's amazing. So did you ever feel like in the week, during the week, was there any point in time where you felt like you had to really like watch for your well-being, or anything shifted or changed in how you were treated, or?
Nothing. The only thing that I would have liked is if I did not have to repeat myself to every restaurant I went to. So every morning when we went to breakfast, they did have a beautiful buffet, but they also had people cooking right on the spot. So like omelets and waffles and homemade burritos and all that sort of stuff. It was wonderful. So I did have to repeat myself every time. I kind of just wish I had a card and was like, here you go. Because it became
like, our preparedness card would be good to do that. Just
yes.
Make sure that they know and everybody's on the same page.
Right, and it just saves a lot of, for any sort of misunderstanding, to have it in their language too, as opposed to just having it in English. That's very helpful.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We're going to try to provide these for our travelers and our friends.
Yeah, it's so helpful. And then that's the only thing that I would change about it. But no, every restaurant we went to, there were 4 restaurants on the resort. Every time we went to eat, they asked me, they went over to make sure they understood. And even one night, I wanted, like I said earlier, I wanted to have something that I knew was going to infect me. It was a dairy thing, and the chef literally was like, no.
I love that.
We're not going to take
care
your
of back, yeah.
So it was like the 1 week in my last 11 years, I did not have a single reaction because I was not allowed to have a reaction. And then one other thing was when we were by the pool one day, this was shocking to me because this has never happened to me. We were by the pool and I was craving French fries because that is my thing when I'm going to treat myself. So
Me too.
Yeah. So the waiter's going around, taking orders and everything, and I let him know again of my allergies. And my allergies now have become, by this point, connected to my room number. So they're starting to put all this information together. So he's like, sure, no problem. I tell him of my allergies. He comes back to me after he puts the order in and he says, do you have 20 minutes? And I was like, sure, because I'm just laying by the pool. I have all day,
Yeah.
So he says, we're going to change the oil so that there's no cross-contamination on your French fries. How many orders do you want?
That's a wow. That's a wow moment, right?
So I was like, 2. I'm not going to put you through all that for 1 order. Let's just go ahead and do 2.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you feel like the resort already had these accommodations in place? Like when we travel, I feel like we have to advocate for ourselves so much at every restaurant, whether you're staying in the hotel room or you're going out. Mm-hmm. So we're used to doing that.
Right.
But did you feel like these measures were already in place and equipped, or was it because that you were so on guard and so well prepared to help prepare them to treat you?
I wish that I had another experience with them.
Yeah, me too.
I just feel like we're going to go again. Yeah. I just feel like I don't think the measures were in place because they had a lot of questions for me.
Yeah.
But I would rather have questions than not.
Yeah, me too.
Ask me tons of questions.
Yes.
Let me clarify,
Yeah.
But I think they were kind of learning along with me in my situation. So I don't know if they maybe put anything into play now for everyone.
Yeah.
But that's a good question. I have to kind of look back and see,
Yeah.
or go forward and see if they changed anything.
Yeah, because you have to think, you do such a very good job. I've eaten with you many times, and you're very thorough, and you make sure that everybody's educated and knows, and you clarify and double check and cross your, dot your
Yeah.
I's, cross your T's, and so I'm just curious.
Well, you definitely get over being squeamish about asking questions and being your own advocate, don't you?
Yeah, you have to if you don't want to get sick.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to
Yeah.
have a conversation if we
Yeah.
need to. But with these people, they were just open to anything that I had to say, but they were also seemed very knowledgeable. They weren't
Yeah.
just the run of the
They
mill.
had the knowledge. Okay, so that's a good
Yeah,
point. They had the knowledge.
Yeah, they definitely had knowledge about what it was I was talking about.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the run-of-the-mill person
Yeah.
coming up to the table who never had any idea of
Yeah.
what even a grain was. They knew what grains were, but I also was talking to the chef at that time, so the chef knew what grains were, which usually I have to say, grains are wheat, rice, corn, oats, and then they
know.
like,
Yeah.
they look at me with the surprised eyes of like, what can you eat?
Yes, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
So,
Okay, so one question I had is like when I go out to eat or when you travel, you accidentally get gluten, and gluten is like one of those really tricky allergies. I feel like there's so many cross-contamination factors and so many different ways to get gluten, and sometimes whether it's the waiter's communication or the chef or just lack of preparedness on their end, I feel like you accidentally get gluten. Did you feel like the entire week you went without getting gluten?
I did.
Okay.
I really believe, it was like the first time
Yeah.
I had consecutive days where I'd never had a reaction. Usually I can get by with maybe a day, but it's never, we were there for 5 days. I had full on 5 days of no reaction.
That is amazing.
And being glutened is my worst.
Yes.
And no cross-contamination or anything,
Yeah.
and usually my body can pick that up.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably the sneakiest of all the
It is.
allergies. Yeah.
Well, I don't think a lot of people understand cross-contamination.
Okay, was there a moment when you felt out of place or you were embarrassed to double check, or did they ever make you feel like you should feel bad about asking that question? Sometimes we have these allergies and we are a little embarrassed because we're the ones that stand out, we're so different, and you're made to feel a little bit ashamed of it, or...
Well, luckily this week that we were in Cabos San Lucas, I did not have that feeling at all. I felt like they were protecting me. I really
I love
felt
that.
like they were protecting me. I was able to let my guard down more than I'd ever been before. I still asked questions and just, made sure with my meals, but they were adamant about what was in it. They told me every ingredient and every, side, meat, sauce, whatever.
Yeah. So
But
they cared for you. They
yes,
made you feel cared for.
They made me feel cared for.
Yes.
Now, I've had instances where I went to a conference with my husband, and there was a table where we all went out to eat, and there was maybe like 15 people at this table, and we're in Chicago, and it was made the biggest deal when I had to I just asked to talk to the manager, and I just thought the manager was going to relay the message to the chef. Well, it was kind of a loud restaurant, and the chef came out, the waiter came back to the table, and the manager came. So I have 3 people
Feels like a parade of people.
hovering around me. Yeah, and it's almost, the whole restaurant just went
Yeah.
quiet, and everyone was listening, and I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
And we're at a work function, and I'm pulling all this attention to me, so it had to embarrass my husband too. And that's when that was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this differently. So that's why I call ahead, and I talk to the chef, I talk to the manager, so I don't have that feeling anymore at the table.
Like it's a big production and you're the person
Yes.
standing out in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like,
I felt like I was in trouble that day.
yeah.
When that happened. And then when everybody was staring, they were probably thinking that they were yelling at me or something, when all they were trying to do was understand my allergies. And so, yeah, I learned a big lesson.
Well, I love that you didn't feel that way, because that's a blessing too. Like when you can go on a trip and feel safe, but also feel like you're heard and it's private.
Yes.
It's not, it doesn't have to be an embarrassing moment.
Right.
So what about your room and environmental allergies? Were there any issues at all? I know you said it was a newer place, so most likely you didn't have to deal with anything like that, but fragrances, anything that you could tell?
No. So, I know they cleaned every day, but I never had that overwhelming smell of like Clorox or, Pine Sol or something that was really strong. It was very subdued. I did notice that they cleaned when I walked in, but it wasn't like a knock me over kind of thing. But it was very clean. Like the rooms were so clean, and I was actually
Yeah.
shocked. And the furnace filter, they had changed it for me, so I didn't have any problems there. And then there was no mold in the showers. You know, I mean, you can have mold in a year, in a week,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But there was no mold in the showers, even around the shower door things. I mean,
Okay.
unbelievably clean. This place was top notch.
Yeah, and I love that because I feel like that rolls over to your food allergies, so people don't realize it's these layers that we get,
Mhm.
whether it's outside with tree pollen
Right.
or mold allergy in the room, but it also affects your food too. So
It does. It
and
builds
what
up in
you're
your
allowed to
body.
eat. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it kind of helps. Like you're already down one if you have those issues when you go
Right.
to dinner. You know.
Well, the way I kind of talk about it is usually I think of it as like a bucket that's in your body every day that you're starting out with, whereas a normal person who doesn't have allergies and things, their bucket's empty. And they might have little things like, you know, hay fever or tree pollen or something that might be bothering them. And their bucket at the end of the day, you know, this big bucket might have like this much in it. Whereas somebody like you and me, we wake up and our bucket's already this much in it, and we
That's
have
right.
this much room left
Yeah.
before we have, you know, it overflows and we have a reaction. So everything, like you said, a mold in the room or pollen
Or a
outside,
pet or carpet or yeah,
just takes it further and further and further up.
yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so overall, I know that, so we have a write-up on our website that actually goes into great detail about a description of the trip, where it was, shares some photos. So we'll link to that below. But how would you rate this trip? Like, how many stars would you give it? And
Five stars all around, everything. You know. Okay, so if you are interested in visiting Garza Blanca, it's in Cabos San Lucas. It is absolutely amazing. Please share your thoughts and comments if you go. I would love to hear your experiences. And we're going to post a little link in the notes so that you can find the resort. And
yeah, and also subscribe to our channel in case, you know, like we're going to be sharing all kinds of tips and tricks on travel and destination reviews. But we'd also like to hear your questions, and then we'll try to have some videos where we actually answer your questions and follow up with you guys.